I'm Marissa and I directed Domicile. I think my favorite part of directing this film was just the amazing people I got to work with. I've worked with most of them before, but working with some new people like Kai and Addie was just amazing. And I love shooting in my home state of Iowa. And I think we made something pretty cool.
Hi, I'm Kai Swanson. I played Angela and actor. What a great experience. I hadn't worked with any of y'all before, and it was just such a wonderful experience. Seeing a lot of y'all had collaborated before, and so getting to see you all kind of the way you communicate was really wonderful. But also just getting to work with everyone was a great experience.
Yeah, so I'm Addie. I played Mia, and it was great seeing, as Kai mentioned before, having two worlds kind of combined. So like I'd worked with Bruce and JB before, and then having Marissa and Kai come in, like it was a really great dynamic. So every day on set was fun, but especially when JB brought his dog, that was pretty great.
I'm Bruce James Bales. I was a producer and director of photography and the editor of Domicile. For me, the funnest part, the most enjoyable part of the process was just getting to work with the crew. I gel so well with everybody that we were on set with, and it was, one of the smoothest productions I've ever been a part of, aside from the first night, which was really hot, and we had the most amount to film that night, so we were just kind of under the gun, but the rest of the shoot was just like ridiculously enjoyable, and I felt in the pocket the entire time, and I think that is something that comes with working with people you're really familiar and comfortable with.
I'm John Hennessy Baker. My friends call me JB because there are many Johns in the world. I wrote Domicile. I was a producer, casting director, did sound on production on set, and then did post-production sound as well.
Okay.
And as far as like a little nugget from the film, obviously Bruce, which is the name of my dog as well. There's Bruce Human, and then there's Bruce Dog. Having him in the film was kind of a last minute decision in terms of the writing process, just because animals and children are always kind of a wild card. So, and especially with him, he's kind of a shy boy, so I didn't really know how it would go, but having him on set for that kind of final sequence in my sister and my brother-in-law's home was just super surreal and super fun. Again, kind of speaks to the community of the whole experience. We were super lucky to be able to film in the same neighborhood, which is a neighborhood called Beaverdale in Des Moines, which was a really sort of lucky coincidence, and again just added to the sort of isolated nature of the film. Oh, this is Jeff, and that'll be a good cut point.
I'm Sam Alexakis, and I composed the score for Domicile. My part was done remotely, but I would say my favorite moment of the process was honestly probably watching the film for the first time, and just having the ideas just immediately race, only because that was the moment that I didn't know what was going to happen next.
It was a super collaborative process to write the script, especially when, an initial draft of the script didn't necessarily have an all-female cast, which is something that was made kind of later on, a decision that was made later on in the process. But that came about through collaboration and through having people read the script, having Marissa read the script, having Addie read the script, having Bruce James Bales read the script, and just getting lots of really interesting feedback. A lot of really interesting notes, sort of as you alluded to earlier on in the conversation, that, this is a fairly relatable tale in an odd sense for it being as sort of surreal and strange as it is. But, I think that collaborative process started in the writing and then just continued on throughout, especially as I kind of handed it off, so to speak, to the other departments?
I think it all started with a really good script, which courtesy of JB, and the fact that we were all in it from, I think, the first draft. So we kind of all knew what we wanted from the very beginning, which I think helped us to bring it to life on set, especially because some of the moments that are very, very slow burn are very hard to shoot. Yeah, so I think it just started with a good script and the fact that we all know each other pretty well and we work together pretty well. I think that gave us the upper hand in making something with such a slow pace that still is intriguing.
Yeah, I think our our approach is sometimes more of a European approach, I would say, than an American approach with the pacing and just the way we end up cutting the films that we make together. And I think that's really because from a cinematography standpoint, with my brain, I don't blink that often. So I don't really understand hyper cuts and like just the superhero action movie pacing. It feels against my personal aesthetic and the aesthetic of Domicile because we wanted to sit with Mia. We wanted to be next to her. We wanted to see how she was reacting to these situations and almost sometimes at an uncomfortable length. And I think that comes from, being influenced by not only the script, but by things that I watch and things that I read and things that I look at. And, anytime a film is made, it's like a perfect storm of things happening. And it's the same with the creative approach. I think where you are in your life and the things you ingest and how you feel really do come through in your work. And with Domicile, I felt very patient with the camera and with the edit. And luckily, we had Sam on board to really help that pacing and mood and tone come together, because I think there's always that worry when you first watch the cut of the film with no score where you're just like, yeah, this might work. We're going to need someone. I mean, we were happy with the cut, but we just like knew that we needed a good score. I think that was the first thing JB, Marissa, and I said was just like, we need a really good score to make this come alive.
Relatable. And I think all of us are kind of in the same age bracket and sort of hitting that point of where we all just want a house and like we all want to be able to afford that and be able to buy that. So the whole thing was definitely emotionally felt very much around like the sense of this building, and that the thing that I really sort of kept in my mind was focusing sort of on these reminders and these reminders of everything that sort of builds up into like executing the plan of taking that next step and sort of hitting that moment of where it's like, okay, it's time for me to stop paying rent and it's time for me to stop like fishing my money out to people where I know I'm never going to see it again. So there is definitely a very personal and like emotional attachment for me, and just in the sense of how I wanted to create that space.
Well, just from a collaborative standpoint, I guess before I was cast, or before I knew that I was cast, JB sent me a copy of the script, and that was, I thought, I really, really appreciated that just as a collaborative element of this film, and to get to see the foundations of it and see how, and to have an input on it. So to have like, to recognize the story of a young woman and to have JB say, hey, what's a young woman that I know? Let's have their input. Like, that was great. I really appreciated that. But yeah, along with the subtlety, there are some really key moments in here, especially near the end, Kai, when it's us in the office building and you turn around and we just lock eyes for a minute. That I think it all just comes back to minimizing all the circumstances into one really small, important moment. And like, that's how, personally, before going into those scenes, it was like, whatever happens before this beat is inconsequential, doesn't matter, but as long as it can ramp up enough to this moment where we lock eyes and you see the relationship between the two characters. That's how I went into it.
I think definitely something I really appreciated was, I don't know, I say this all the time. I wish that there were more, you never see a female sociopath. I don't know, like you never see that character. And I don't know, as an actor, like that's the only character I want to play. Like, so it was, I don't know, it was really refreshing to read that. So thank you, JB. And just, I think to some extent, it's, when getting into the head of this character, like, I think, she hones in on things. And so I think that definitely it's like everything like before action was just like, I don't know, there was just like so much energy, and then everything else just kind of like fell to the side. I don't know if you felt the same way, Addie.
Yeah, I mean, like because it was so, since we all know each other so darn well behind the scenes that we're all hanging out, and then suddenly it's like, okay, go. And then it's the okay, like go. And that was like the best part about making this film. But yeah, the fact that we could go from such like heightened intensity, like just, pals making a movie, to suddenly, in these moments of really high intensity, which was really great. I think a testament to everyone on set.
I'm from Iowa, but I live in Los Angeles now and have also lived in Northern California, which is the best part of California. I will fight about it. But yeah, it's super weird to go from being in the Midwest where you don't, at least as a teenager or as a younger kid, you don't see people making movies. Like that doesn't occur as an actual career. It's just like, okay, movies get made in Hollywood. But then I went to college in Florida and then moved everywhere. Pretty much didn't start making short films until I moved back to the Midwest, because it's the only place where people are willing to collaborate. People are super willing to give you locations, and pretty much, I don't know that any location has ever been a huge struggle to find, because people are just so stoked to have a film made in their hometown, in their home state, anything like that. And obviously I'm going to bring up the people. People are just, everybody's very hardworking. For the most part, nobody ever flakes out or doesn't show up, and everybody's like willing to give 110% and be collaborative, and everybody's just insanely talented. Like, because I think it's because it's a smaller market, so you have to be really good to get hired and to do work. I just think it's a really untapped well of people, resources, and stories for sure.
I was just talking with a friend who's from Ohio about how you can go back home from school. I go to a film school out west, and so there's all these rules that you have to follow, and everyone's so obsessed with following the rules and going by protocol. And I was talking to this friend, and I think Marissa and everyone here can agree, like, you go back home to shoot a movie and you can, there's like, it's not that the rules don't apply, it's kind of like the laws don't. So you can kind of go anywhere and do many different things and get away with a lot more, because there's, again, the people are just so happy that there's, oh, you guys are shooting a movie, like, is it a real movie, like, what are you doing? Like, it's fun.
Yeah, and I think we also have to be self-starters here in the Midwest, where we can't just rely on projects to come to our door. We have to write them, we have to produce them, we have to find the locations, we have to cast them, sometimes we have to act in them. And that spirit is what drew me to filmmaking in the first place, is this idea of all these people coming together for a common cause to make something that hopefully has an impact on people. And, you know, I like being underrated. I like being overlooked. It definitely personally gives me a chip on my shoulder that makes me work harder. And really, you know, I kind of take exception to the flyover status that people give Iowa and places like Indiana and Ohio and Missouri and all these places where really great work is being done. You can make great films anywhere, and all of the locations that you don't think about are probably where some of the most interesting stories are happening.
As creators and as artists, you know, I think it's not something that's really well celebrated here. And so I know for me, when I first started making art in the Midwest, it took a while for me to be like, I'm an artist, you know, I'm a filmmaker, I'm creating, because I think a place like this doesn't necessarily encourage that sort of definition. but there's a lot of power in that, in finding that yourself. And in that same vein, not knowing the rules, so to speak, so you can break them and make them yourself.
I think my biggest inspiration is filmmaking is just seeing how far we've come with the things that we've done because you know, we all start with something and that something is usually not great. Um, so, you know, seeing your first film and then seeing your latest and being like, cool, we're doing great. And then seeing all the other just insane stuff that's coming out of the Midwest and even short films out here, California, New York, just really other short films are my biggest inspiration.
My biggest inspiration is definitely I feel like there's always one moment when you're on set with either a new group of people or like you worked with a group of people you've worked with before, where there's a problem that happens or there's something where everybody has to stop everything they're doing and everybody's exasperated and it's like so I don't know, can I swear in this? Sorry. They'll say, shoot, darn it, we've messed up and I don't know what we're gonna do from here. And then everybody sort of stops and looks at each other and realizes we can all handle it and we'll just keep going and we'll make it work. And that's enough to keep me wanting to do projects, you know, till the end of time. So.
I'll sort of give a blanket answer about what inspires me because I think really just curiosity inspires me. I'm just grateful to still be a curious person, to ask questions, to take detours, to chase weird light that I see coming through trees, to pull over to take photographs, to read books by authors I've never read books by before, by going to art museums, to taking walks in my neighborhood, listening to music. I'm just really happy to still have that childlike curiosity, inspired by moments of truth. And I think that filmmaking and making films, you get an opportunity to see truth play out, more so than in maybe other occupations. And it's a poetic thing that I can't really describe, but when you see an actor or actors in a scene bring truth to a moment, it's something that really makes the hair on the back of your neck rise and makes you feel like you're doing something really important. And I'm just really happy to be a storyteller and get to see those things.
Next project, great question. Especially with the way everything's going, who knows? I'm working on a road reel submission right now, so probably a small 3-minute short film for that specifically. We'll see. Hopefully more soon, very soon. Losing it out here.
I got offered a role in the Friends upcoming thesis film, which will be really fun, assuming productions are still on during the upcoming school year. But I got a role in that, and that should be really fun.
I will be voice acting actually in an animated series, which I'm pretty excited about, a short animated series, which is a comedy. I get to play a superhero, which is kind of fun.
Next project, a lot of it is theoretical right now, and just sort of ideas, but it's all just kind of starting to kick off, producing a couple different albums for some folks, and just conceptualizing my own solo project, which I think Bruce and I have talked about just a little bit. So, yeah.
As far as my next project, I'm taking this time to do a little bit of writing. I've been working on a short film script called Seed and Soil. And then I'm also loosely writing my first feature film called Fertile. But that one's been a hard road. Just found it very difficult to concentrate sometimes lately. So just grateful for any moment of clarity that I might have.